Hello, hello, my amazing listeners. How are you today? Thanks for joining me for this quick bonus episode. I heard about this tool from Alana, and it was in the context of helping a betrayed partner who was trying to work on her marriage, and it was intended to help her really get out of the partner's control bubble. But when I looked at this acronym, I was like, ooh, this totally applies to my divorcing and divorced ladies, and I'm going to tweak it up a little bit. I really think it's going to be useful for you to help you free up some energy, save that precious energy to help you have an empowered divorce. So, what I did was took this acronym, Stop Dancing with Walter, but the acronym is Walter, and I want to offer it to you from two different perspectives. I want to invite you to use this tool to be aware of how you are showing up, how you participate in this dance with your ex. And then I'm going to show you another way to look at it when to help you notice when your partner is wanting to dance with you and to help you get off the floor. Sticky note the heck out of this, put it in your car, on the back of your phone, wherever you're going to need this reminder as you communicate with your ex to help you continue to practice this and eliminate these types of communications, and also be aware of when these types of communications are being used towards you so that we can be free of this unhealthy, dirty dance. Not the kind of dirty dance that you dreamed about with Patrick Swayze. I actually don't think I saw that movie until I was married, because it was one of those that if you watch that movie, then you are going to hell. Anyways, I digress. Okay, another topic for another day. So the acronym Walter stands for warning, and then you can just put in parentheses threatening. So any threats, any warnings. A is arguing, L is lecturing, T is teaching, E is explaining, and R is reminding. When you recognize if you are using warnings or threats in response to your ex's actions, words, whatever he's doing, and you find yourself warning him about the consequences of their actions, especially like this shows up a lot in co parenting, right? So this one can show up maybe just in a text. Maybe it's, hey, I'm warning you, if you do this again, whatever, right? But it's that I'm warning you, even if we are threatening or creating warnings with legal repercussions. Now, let me pause because I want to make sure I'm very clear here. This doesn't mean that you don't follow through with legal repercussions. It means you're not going to warn or threaten it. You just do it if it needs to be done. When you engage in warning your partner, then it will blur the boundaries. And for your healing and your growth, your emotional stability, establishing and maintaining those clear boundaries is crucial. So when you engage in warning and threatening, then this can indicate that these boundaries that you have aren't fully established or respected by you even. Using warnings or threats to communicate also keeps you in that post-divorce adaptive bonding cycle, keeps you in that unhealthy relationship dynamic that you work so hard to get out of. So you're staying engaged in this cycle of interaction that's tied to the past rather than focusing on your healing and moving into the future. When our children hear the warnings, even, or they read the messages and they see the warnings, it can inadvertently model this form of engagement with just other humans that's just not healthy. I think I'm going to repeat this with every single one of these examples, is that the person that you are trying to warn often being disregarded anyways, especially when there is a history of abusive and destructive behaviors. So now this is going to lead to more frustration, more of a sense of powerless as you start to realize that your efforts to influence or change your ex partner's behavior is absolutely futile. It's pointless. It's out of your control. Okay, the next one is A for arguing. Notice when you find yourself frequently getting into these back and forth arguments. No, you said this. No, I said this, right? Whether this is in person, over the phone, email, or text, when you find yourself in frequent arguments, stop the dance. Trying to argue your point, argue your side, argue your decision, your choices. When we find ourselves in this argumentative back and forth, remove yourself from the dance. I know. This can be really, really hard to eliminate, especially when you have not and are not being seen or understood and misrepresented to your children and to other people. It stirs something in us so deeply that we want to argue our truth, argue our experience. But we're arguing with a person that doesn't care or want to hear it. So you're spending a lot of catabolic energy that is tearing down, that is sucking energy from all of your organs and putting it into this futile argument and conversation. It opens you up for gaslighting, manipulation, right? All of those tools, all of those tactics, you're opening yourself up for those, which then leads to more energy spent because you're now going, wait a second, I just got gaslit. And now you try to explain that you just got gaslit. So let's stop arguing. Okay, the next one is lecturing. This is when you find yourself giving long speeches or writing long emails or long text messages about what they did that was wrong or abusive or unhealthy or impacted you, right? And we're just lecturing on all the ways, all the things about what they did maybe in the relationship or what they're doing in the co parenting or parallel parenting relationship. This lecturing often shows up when you're trying to make your ex understand and feel remorseful and feel the consequences, and it will end up unproductive. If they haven't felt the consequences by now, the odds are they probably won't. When you take that amount of time to engage in a long lecture, whether it's over the phone, in person, email, text, then you're engaging in that unhealthy dynamic with your ex partner, which brings in that emotional entanglement, prevents you from moving forward. This is also just ineffective communication. Lecturing is a one sided form of communication, and it's not going to foster change. So you're exhausting your energy, draining your energy. You leave yourself open for possible re traumatization. We're blurring the lines of the boundaries, and it reinforces the victim perpetrator dynamic. Okay. The next one is teaching. Be aware of those moments where you feel compelled to teach your ex. I know a lot of you have been doing this in the relationship where you learned all of the tools, you learned what healing requires, you learned all the things, and you're trying to teach your partner these things so that they will actually change and do all of the things. But now that you're divorced, teaching is not helpful, and we want to refrain from this kind of behavior as well. And this one's interesting too, because I think when we get in this mode of teaching our ex partner, then we have a little bit of role confusion, meaning we're no longer partners, right? We're no longer partners. And so attempting to teach your ex partner again blurs those boundaries that we are no longer working together in our relationship. We are parallel parenting, or if we can, co parent in this different relationship. Teaching also gives you false hope for change. You think that if you give him all of this information, resources, books, podcasts, teach him the things that you know, that maybe he'll stop his abusive, troubled behaviors. This is again going to exhaust your emotions, take you out of what you need to be focusing on first and foremost, and that's you, your healing, your future, your children. I know even after my divorce, there were so many times when I would read something or find some information and immediately my brain would go, oh, if he only could hear this. Oh, if he only knew this, then he would get his crap together, right? So notice when it comes up, but refrain from going into that teaching mode. The next one is explaining. Identify when you are over explaining, justifying your actions to your ex. When you find yourself seeking validation or understanding, so we're going to over explain, or we're going to explain again and again multiple times, because more than likely they're judging, questioning, or doubting, shaming your actions. And that feels threatening because of the post adaptive bonding cycle. There's that part of us that still really cares about what they think and feel about us. We don't want them to go off and tell everybody else their thoughts and feelings about us and change this perception. So we find ourselves explaining. I see this one also carry over in a lot of other relationships where we feel like we have to explain why we got divorced, why we made the decision we did, why we hired a lawyer, why. You don't need to explain your actions to anyone. You don't need to justify your choices to anyone. If your ex doesn't understand why you are saying no, or why you're not why you're not bending on the parenting plan, you do not have to explain. You will not be validated by your ex for your actions. If there wasn't any validation or acknowledgement in the marriage, it's not going to happen after, more than likely. When you find yourself having to explain and justify your actions to him, it reinforces this dependency, right? It's like, I need you to understand. I need you to approve. And a lot of this might be subconsciously, but it's very counterproductive in establishing your own self independence and self empowerment when we feel like we have to explain ourselves to our ex and other people. The last one is reminding. I think this kind of this coincides with the explaining and the teaching, but reminding also, maybe reminding them about their responsibilities, reminding them of the boundaries, reminding them of the legal plan and what the legal document says. Those kind of reminders are also not helpful, create frustration, blur the boundaries, keep you in that emotional adaptive bonding cycle, keeps you taking on the responsibility for him, his life choices, which keeps you limited in energy on focusing on you and your future. So stop dancing with Walter. Okay, now I want to offer this acronym in a different way. When you notice that your partner is using warnings, threats, arguing, lecturing, teaching, explaining, and reminding or resentment towards you, this is a clear indicator that you are going to leave the dance floor. You're not going to engage in the dance. The one that was probably the hardest for me for the warnings and the threats, because a part of me believed that I would lose all of my children, that I would never see them again, because that was my biggest fear. So, whatever he warned or threatened to use against me to take something that I love away, first of all, that is abusive and it created the paralyzing fear. So, I want to validate that when you are having those warnings and threatenings come at you, it can feel extremely, extremely paralyzing. This is why I always recommend having that lawyer, having someone in legal that you can call and get more information around what is being threatened against you. What are your legal rights as a parent? And this can help eliminate some of that fear. There were a lot of things that he said, legal jargon that he threw at me that I believed because I didn't have the information for myself. Once I did get a lawyer and I had the information and I could run it by my lawyer loved laughing at all of the threats and things that were coming our way because it made no sense and there was no basis for any of it. But before I knew that, I was paralyzed with that fear. The moment that you are on the phone and you feel grounded, you feel like you are explaining very clearly what you will and will not do or tolerate on the phone. Maybe you're sticking to very basic communication. Maybe you're keeping it short, sweet, to the point. There's no emotions, right? Nothing in that text or email or conversation. And immediately you are responded with argumentative behavior, tone is being raised. At that point, you disengage. Being aware of when the dance of Walter is being used towards you, your response is to disengage. When you disengage, then this means what? Now, what do you turn towards when you turn away from this type of behavior? Well, you turn towards yourself. You save all of that energy that is being expelled over here in the dance with Walter, and you're going to use that beautiful energy towards yourself to nourish yourself, to validate yourself, to give yourself what you need. A lot of that self care, right? It can be really excruciating when you want to explain all the reasons why you're making this decision or all the reasons why you're sticking to the parenting plan. And you want to write and write and write and try so hard to get him to understand and see this because you're probably being blamed for not being a good co-parent. You're probably having this even used against you. Like, I just want to co-parent healthily. Why are you being so difficult by sticking to the legal document? Have you heard that one yet? And so this natural part of you wants to explain, wants to lecture, wants to teach, wants to remind all the things, but it's taking away from you. It's not being received openly with curiosity from the other person. So it's wasted energy. It's sucking energy away that you need to heal, to reestablish your own environment, your healing, your future. If they don't understand the divorce proceedings or the paperwork or what came out of the divorce, it is not your job to explain it. I remember when I got the restraining order and I knew he was going to blow right through it. I knew that there would be an email or a text or something, and that the result was him ending up in jail again. I didn't want that. I really didn't want that for him or for the children. So there was this part of me that when he reached out or emailed, I wanted to say, don't do this. Don't do this because you're going to end up in jail. Don't do this, or even threaten. If you do this again, I'm going to have to report this to the police, right? I was engaging in that dance with Walter. I remember I had this female police officer one time showed up because there was a violation, and she could sense my distress of the follow through with the restraining order on the legal side of it all. And she looked at me and she said, "It is not your job to explain or inform this legal document. He is a grown ass man and he can read it himself." And there was something about someone in law enforcement giving me permission to stop this dance. It eliminated the fear. It reminded me that it is not my responsibility or even right to lecture, teach, explain, or remind, and that the warning would come from her. So first, just be aware of when you are showing up this way, or be aware of when these are happening to you. Lean into accepting that you cannot change your ex-partner's behavior, but you can change how you respond and engage with them. And lean in, practice your agent power mode by empowering yourself to choose to be healthier in the ways that you interact with yourself, with your ex, and with others. Focus on what you can control, your own actions and your own responses. And you get to choose to stop dancing with Walter, because you can. Take care, everybody. The first Thursday of every month, I hold a free session where you can come and get coached and ask all the questions. Maybe you go through this no dancing with Walter and you start practicing, and now you find yourself going, wait a second, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? Bring it to the Q&A. Not only can you feel support by others who are in the same situations, but I will coach you and help you get unstuck. Again, it's the first Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Click the link in the show notes to register for your free session. See you soon.